Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens, actual cats, not humans, Minerva and Astoria, and this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things that I'm knitting and spinning and sewing and potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, especially right now. And you decided to give this a go, and that makes you a rad human. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Intro out the way. I just want to say really quickly, the comments on yesterday's video, which I don't know what order you're watching this is. I don't even know what year you're watching this in. You could be watching this in the year 2400, and the cat overlords have decided to let you have the tiniest bit of screen time in between your massive fawning over them and making sure that they stay alive and kept for and well. So I don't know when you're watching this, but yesterday's video, which was traveling with the traveler shawl, the comments on that video fully sent me into an emotional tizzy. A good one, but fully sent me into an emotional tizzy. It was just really affirming and really validating, and not that, you know, you need external validation, but sometimes it's nice to have. So thank you so much to everyone who watched that video and took the time out to leave a comment. I know that our time is so tender and so precious right now, and I really appreciate every effort that all of you make to engage with the stuff that I'm putting out here. I really appreciate all of the knowledge that this is real labor, and just, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without seeming like a vain and inane idiot, because I am incredibly vain, so I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It just feels really gratifying to see the work and the labor that you're doing be acknowledged and received, because I do enjoy doing this, but it does take a lot out of me, especially this daily situation. I don't know what I was thinking, but now that I'm in it, we're stuck because I'm in it and I love it too much to quit. So we'll see. At this rate, I think even if we don't get exactly 24 or 25 videos up during December, we might get pretty close, because I think this is video 14. So we might get pretty close. Also, y'all are gonna have to excuse my messy bun situation. I'm having one of those days where just the sensation of my hair on my neck is enough to send me off the deep end, which, you know, all my neurodivergent folks, you understand what that feels like. I just don't want it. So I piled it up in the silliest messy bun ever. I'm wearing my Mola headband to keep it back. Someone, was it Danielle? I think Danielle commented that wearing my hair up brings out my eyes, which honestly, the sweetest thing. And maybe I should wear my hair in real buns and not messy buns, but finding a hair tie big enough to control this and keep it in place in a normal bun is really hard. All right, sit and spin today. Sit and spin. So I finished my south down. It's all done. We are spinning a new breed today. So I don't know what we're spinning, but we will put it, you know, here somewhere when I find out what it is. And then what I thought we would do today is do a Q&A. And we're going to do a Q&A all about making. I'm going to try to do 2 Q&As this month. 1 all about making, 2 all about the maker. Although I don't even know if I need to do a Q&A all about me when you guys have just been listening to me talk for the last 13 days. But we're going to do a Q&A all about my making, all about the maker. And what I did was just fully lost my train of thought. What I did was I went on, I had posted a little question box on Instagram in November asking for potential topics. And I will say, I did warn people that Vlogmas was not a technical spinning situation, and a bunch of people left me requests for demos. Maybe later, but that is not the season of my life that we're in right now. I can talk about spinning from here to kingdom come. I don't consider myself a spinning teacher. I think I am capable of workshopping issues and helping people clinic their spinning issues, but I don't think I'm someone that has the mental capability to teach someone how to spin from the ground up. So the request for specific demonstrations, I don't know if that's going to be something that I'll be able to do. It's going to be something that I'll have to practice and work at, and maybe demo on my IRL friends before I start filming it and sharing here and everyone just goes, are we sure that person actually knows what they're doing? So that's where we are. So I don't know if that's something that's going to be happening, if at all. But I did get a bunch of fun Q&A questions. So I have another piece of paper taped to my TV with 12 spinning questions. And that's what we're going to do today. I am very like low-key, comfy, casual. I'm not in my pajamas. I'm actually in real clothes. I did take a shower before I did this, so I would be awake. But we're keeping it very comfy, casual, low-key today because it's been a long week. It's been a long week, and spoons are not at their highest. And so we're like, what if we take it down a notch and we'd be gentle with ourselves? But we have to do the present dance. Num 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 num. Lisa, this is for you. Num 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 num. All right, enough of the nonsense. Let's see what's in day 7. I did realize though that for my maker's journal, I stopped taking pictures of the fiber before I started spinning it, and I'm very upset at myself because I wanted it for my maker's journal. Oh, okay. What is this? Whatever this is, I think I like it. Did you guys sign up to watch me like rub fiber on my neck? Like, just drape it over me like a French girl and tell me I'm pretty. I like this a lot. Also, this color is beautiful. See, like, oh, Rose's dye style is interesting. Okay, so here's day 7. I don't know what this is. Okay, I have a theory, and I will have to confirm my theory with Rose. I have a theory, though. So we will see if I confirm my theory. Here's day 7, though. It's giving me very, like, coral reef, mermaid off the Atlantic situation. Why the Atlantic and not the Pacific, Tazhi? I don't know. I have a theory about this fiber, and I have to confirm it. But we're going to start spinning, and then we're going to start answering some questions. So my theory is that, and I have to confirm this with Rose, I'm wondering if the 6 and 7 packages got mixed up, and I'm wondering if this is the South Down and day 6 was something else, because this fiber is behaving just like the fiber did on day 5. And I do remember thinking when I was spinning day 6 that like it was wild how different of a spinning experience this was. And I think I made a comment that like maybe the dyes did something, and I think what really happened is we might have just mixed up the fibers in 6 and 7. And I have to confirm this with Rose because this feels just like the South Down that I was spinning on day 5, which we'll see. We'll see if I'm correct. We'll see if I'm correct, but we got to get going. So the first thing I have on my list to talk about as far as Q&A goes is it's a recent question. This question was not asked when I had asked for spinning questions, but in light of everyone being absolutely obsessed, and rightfully so, with the Traveler Shawl, I am also absolutely obsessed with the Traveler Shawl, and I'm flying through mine. It is the best white noise knitting, so, you know, I'm not mad about that. But yes, in light of everyone being obsessed with the Traveler Shawl, a bunch of people have asked me questions on combo spinning. So let's talk about combo spinning, because I think people are making combo spinning out to be harder than it is. At its core, a combo spin, and again, this is just my ideas of a combo spin. I have read yarn texture, you know, I have done, you know, I did a little bit of spinning research in the beginning, but also all of this is just my own spinning practices, and you could agree to disagree with me. At its core, a combo spin is just spinning multiple braids and plying them together. That's it. We're not talking about like combo drafting or any of the ways that you spin it at the same time, because those are different. So combo drafting is different from combo spinning. But at the core, a combo spin is just spinning multiple braids of fiber and then plying them together. So the easiest way to do a combo spin, which is the way Andrea did her combo spins for her projects, is you just spin a different color to each bobbin and ply them together. If you're doing a 2-ply, you spin one color end to end on one bobbin, you spin the other color end to end on the other bobbin, and you ply them together. That's a combo spin because you're combining different colors. And a combo spin is a really easy way of like length. I'm pretty sure this is the South Down. I'm having these same issues with it today that I was having. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be really like, you know what they talk about like having egg on your face. If I'm wrong, that'll be interesting, but I'm pretty sure this is the South Down. And I'm going to, as much as I really wanted to keep these colors together, I'm not going to be able to spin that full width of fiber and not get frustrated. So I'm going to strip it down, which means I'll have more color repeats, but that'll be better for my sanity. What was I saying? yeah, so you spin a color to each bobbin, and there you go. You have a combo spin. That is like, at its core, really am having, okay, I think I'm just gonna spin this short forward and just be mindful of how much twist I put into this. And I'm gonna have to put my ratio back up. I do think this is the same fiber that I was spinning on day 5, because I took my ratio down for day 6, and now I'm not getting enough twist, and I think this is the same thing. Okay, let's find some zen. So a combo spin is a really easy way of like enlarging, that's not the word. If you need more yardage for a project, a combo spin is a really easy way to get it. If you don't have, you know, multiple braids of the same fiber. I've done combo spins with different fibers. I've done combo spins all built around the same fiber. My favorite way to do a combo spin is to pick colors that have something in common. So like, one of the easiest ways to do it is to do a combo spin by the same dyer, because the same dyer is going to be using the same dyes on multiple braids, because it's from their, you know, their dye stock. So those things, it's gonna match well. But you can also do a combo spin mixing different dyers. You just gotta, you know, use your judgment, figure out your eyeballs, figure out what makes you happy. I think that if you're gonna do something that has a lot of contrast between the 3 braids, doing it from end to end will probably help your yarn to look more cohesive at the end. But you can also be like wildly chaotic and, you know, rip a bunch of strips up and spin them all. You can do whatever you want. It's your yarn. My last advent spins, my Nest Fiber advent spins, I applied them all together and made a combo spin. All combo spin just means it's just spinning a bunch of chaos together, applying it up and having one yarn at the end of it. So if you're interested in doing that, I think you need 850 yards for the travelers. So go through your stash, pull out a bunch of braids, and get to work. You could do something like a fade. You could do a number of things, but a combo spin is literally just spinning a bunch of stuff. And the reason you do a combo spin versus doing like 3 individual braids together is it helps to blend the colors, so you end up with a more cohesive yarn at the end of it. So if you're looking for a more cohesive traveler shawl experience versus the scrappy experience that I'm gonna have, because I've started calling my traveler shawl a letter to all the yarns I've loved before. So if you're looking for like a more cohesive experience, then, you know, a combo spin might be the way to go. And then you start with a really intentional yarn versus, again, doing what I'm doing, which I'm having the time of my life. So I hope that explained combo spinning, because it's not this big concept that I think everyone's like freaking out about. It's literally just start spinning, apply your yarns, and figure out if you like what you get at the end. You do have to have some, I mean, not have to. I think having some intentionality in the beginning, though, about picking your colors will make sure that your yarn makes you happy, but also make mud. I like making mud. I think there's a lot to be said for making mud, so do what feels good. Number 2, another question I've gotten recently is my favorite spin heavy podcast. I have shared my favorite podcast before, but again, I shared it last year, and our community is growing and growing every day. So I will share again. My favorite spin heavy podcasts are Lisa. I will try to remember to tag them in the description box. I said try. I might not succeed, but I will try to remember. Lisa at Soulful Spinning. I've watched the same episodes of Lisa's podcast over and over. This is no insult to Lisa, but Lisa's podcast is what I put on when I can't sleep and I just really want to sleep, because I find her energy and her personality and her voice just really, really soothing. So at night when I can't sleep, I just put on, and again, this is not because she's boring, it's because she's really heartwarming, and sometimes my brain just needs a little bit of help. I put Lisa's podcast episodes that I've watched in the past on at night when I need to sleep, and eventually I get there. Sometimes I get very engrossed in watching her do the things that I've already seen her do, and then it doesn't work as well as it should, but most of the time it gets me right to sleep. So I really enjoy Lisa. Rachel at Woolen Spinning is how I learned to become a technical spinner. Lisa feels very much like a spin for the vibe spinner, and again, this is my projecting my understanding of Lisa's making craft. I have never asked Lisa this. I should ask her. We talk often enough. Lisa feels very much like a spin for the vibe spinner, and Rachel is how I learned everything I know about technical spinning. If you are interested in technical spinning, I highly recommend Rachel at Woolen Spinning. She has her live stream podcast. She also has a very active Patreon that I have been a member of for over a year, and I will never cancel because the amount of value in her Patreon is, I mean, Rachel's a full-on spinning teacher. She teaches for the School of Sweet Georgia. So like you're getting your money's worth with that Patreon. And also I would just support Rachel forever because the work she's doing is invaluable. But yes, Rachel at Wool and Spinning is great. Evie at Jillian Eve is another spin heavy podcast that I learn a lot from. Evie does a lot of like specific technique videos, so less like a maker's journal and more about a lot of tutorials, a lot of tips, a lot of like project journals. So I really enjoy Evie's channel. Who else? I'm trying to think of like spin heavy podcasts. Those are the top 3 off the top of my head. There's a bunch of other podcasts that I watch that share spinning, but if we're talking about like spin heavy podcasts where you're going to learn about spinning, there's also Tiny Fiber Studio. I knew there was a 4th one. Tiny Fiber Studio. So like if you're looking for like spin heavy tutorials or like tips or tricks or ways to like enhance your spinning, those are going to be the podcasts I recommend. If you're looking for just a general teacher, I highly recommend the School of Sweet Georgia. That is a paid subscription, but the School of Sweet Georgia has a million classes on knitting and spinning and crocheting and weaving and dyeing. So like literally anywhere you are in the fiber arts, you can find something there. So that's what I would recommend though for a spin heavy podcast. I'm sure, obviously an Andrea Mowry. I'll knit if I want to, especially the I'll spin if I want to episodes. Obviously. If I'm missing anybody or you guys have any recommendations, just let me know in the comments. I have not had my coffee yet, so my brain's not awake. And while I did write down the questions, I probably should have written down some answers, so I was prepared for these talking points. Number 3, my spinning goals for 2024. I had a lot of people who wanted to talk about making goals, and here's what I'm going to say to that. I am no longer making them. I had big goals going into 2023, and what happened is I decided to let my heart be entranced and delighted by things, and I don't think I completed anything on my knitting goals for 2023, and I definitely don't think I completed anything on my spinning goals for 2023. Instead, I just did whatever felt good at the time. So I don't think I'm making goals. I don't think I'm making plans. I think what will be better served for me is making quarterly plans. So like I did that winter making plans video, and I think that might be what better serves me, is doing quarterly making plans. What do I think that I can get done in the next 3 months? What am I interested in the next 3 months? What is entrancing and delighting me over the next 3 months? I think it's just too long term for me to figure out making plans for a whole year. There are a few things that I want to do as far as like, I think there's a few things that I want to attend. There's a few bucket list items that I want to try to scratch off my list. But as far as like spinning projects, I'm not making goals for the next year. I would love to go to Maryland Sheep and Wool again. I would love to go to Rhinebeck again. And I'm really, really, really trying to go to Flock, which I think is definitely, I think Flock is happening and Maryland Sheep and Wool might be the maybe. I gotta see. All my friends on the East Coast are trying to convince me to go to the West Coast. And if I go to Flock, there is a high chance that I might be teaching a spinning class. But like, again, like gosh, the spinning class that I'm thinking about teaching, I keep interrupting myself when I talk, and it is very frustrating for me, and I'm sure it is incredibly frustrating for you. I was thinking about teaching designing a sweater yarn you love class, and then doing like a sweater spinning class in person. So less like introduction to spinning or like spinning one-on-one, because that's the thing that I don't think I can do, and more like an intermediate spinning class. So you already have some sort of foundations, you already know what you're doing. How do we step this up a level? So I will be making that decision over the next week or so, because the application to teach, I think, closes like mid-January. So I gotta like make some hard choices and decide pretty soon. But those are the things that I would love to do. But as far as like making goals for 2024, I just decided to give myself the freedom and the luxury of not actually making those, because they just stress me out. I keep looking at my 2023, I rewatch my videos. And I rewatched my 2023 knitting plans video, and I didn't start any of those projects. Like I had yarn for all of them. I pulled out yarn for all of them. I showed all the things that I wanted to do, and we are in December of 2024 and I didn't make any of those things. And instead I made a bunch of different things because I gave myself, again, room to be entranced and delighted. So I'm not making goals anymore. I'm doing quarterly plans, which are actionable and attainable for me, and everything else, that's it. It means that there probably won't be a big 2024 knitting plans video like there was last year. Or maybe it would be like the dream projects. But I think there's a difference between like daydreaming and percolating on what you want to do and actually making goals and plans. So maybe we'll do like 2024 daydreaming, which will not be real. I probably won't do anything with that video, but it'll be a fun video to make. But that's where I am on like knitting and spinning goals for the next year. And I hope that made sense. Okay, number 4, favorite places to buy fiber. So this is an interesting question, because when we say buy fiber, there are a number, that is a very like broad umbrella. When we say buy fiber, we could be talking about raw wool. We could be talking about minimally processed wool. We could be talking about farm roving. We could be talking about dye top. So I decided to answer this separate my answer to two categories. There is my minimally processed farm roving situation, which is what has my heart. And then there's my favorite places to buy dyed fiber. So my favorite places to buy like minimally mill processed. Well, first of all, my favorite place to buy fiber, which I would do all the time if I could keep up with these updates, is Melissa at Melly Knits. Because Melissa does the same stuff I do. She hand processes everything. Her and her husband, you know, wash their wool outside of their house in Canada, and she hand cards everything. I am pretty convinced this is the Southbound. Also, you might have noticed that I have completely defaulted back to continuous backwards, even though I was spinning short forward for a little bit. I don't like spinning short forward, and continuous back is my default spin. And even when I'm trying not to, if I stop paying attention, I default back to my default yarn. That's why default yarns are called what they're called. If I could, wow, orifice hook. All right. If I could keep up with the updates and also get large enough quantities to do the thing, you know, make projects with, I would only buy fiber from Melissa at Melly Knits, because Melissa's hand processed stuff is brilliant. Here's the thing about talking about Melissa. Every time I share about Melissa's work, I realize that I'm competing with more and more of you. I have to sneeze. I realize that I'm competing with more and more of you for the same amount of stuff, and it just decreases my odds of getting something that I want. But also, like, I deeply believe in Melissa and believe in Melissa's energy and the work that she's doing, and I think more people need to know about her. So I will, you know, I will be talking about her from here to Kingdom Come, because Melissa's work is top notch. So my favorite place to buy fiber is going to be from Melissa at Melly Knits. But let's do like bigger term in terms of like mill process stuff. I love Skagit, which I'm pretty sure I'm saying right. You know, I've talked about them multiple times, and every time I say their name, I'm like, I hope I'm saying this right. And maybe I should just, you know, give myself confidence. That I remember how to say it, but also this is probably gonna be the time that I'm saying it wrong. I love Skagit. I have a bunch of fiber from them. Anna and Jess do a really good job of sourcing fleece and then, you know, minimally processing it on their mill equipment. I have a bunch of fiber from them. My other favorite place to buy is from San Juan Wool Works, and the San Juan Wool Works, their fiber is processed at Skagit, but it's from her own flock. So she sends her flock's fiber to Skagit, and then they process it and send it back to her. So if you like the fiber that you've gotten processed at Skagit, I mean that you've bought from Skagit, you would love the San Juan Wool Works fiber because it's processed by them. She raises a flock of fins and fin crosses, and I really enjoy it. And then also I I looked up the name of the CVM mohair roving that I was talking about in my sweater spinning episode that I couldn't remember. It's listen fiber. It's Roubaix, Roubaix. So they do a bunch of CVM roving, and they also do like CVM blends, like CVM mohair, CVM angora, CVM alpaca, and that fiber is prepped so beautifully that I could spin it unsupported. And spinning unsupported sometimes feels like sorcery to me, because like you literally don't have to use, you're not like pinching or controlling the twist, it's just doing it by itself. But that fiber is prepped so beautifully that I could spin it unsupported. Now again, every time I mention my sources, I realize that I am going to be competing with all of you for the same things, but I think everybody should experience the fiber from Roubaix at least once. And then also just going on Etsy. Sometimes I find gems. I search for pin drafted roving because that's what I'm interested in. So I go on Etsy and I search for pin drafted roving, and sometimes I find gems. I found a baby doll Southdown Navajo churro cross on Etsy that I ended up with a fair amount of. I found some Coopworth on Etsy and pin drafted roving that I really enjoyed. I literally just go on Etsy and I search for it because I think a lot of farms, instead of setting up, you know, separate storefronts, just sell their stuff on a storefront that already exists, which, you know, makes sense to me. And then as far as my favorite places to buy dyed top, my favorite dyers are Adrian at Hello Yarn, Marianne at Three Waters Farm, Jen at Wee Chickadee, Beth at Spindleicious, and then I have a, oh my god, Hikari at Hikari Handmade. Her Rolags, I think I said that backwards. I think that's right. Her Rolags are an experience, and she routinely just, you have to follow her on Instagram to know when she's gonna pop Rolags in her shop. But if you ever get some Rolags from Hikari, I mean, the amount of work that goes into making those little bundles is like wild, and they come to you so beautifully packaged, and they're just delightful spinning experiences. And every single time I've gotten one, I've just enjoyed every single moment of it. So those are my favorite places to source fiber. So another question I got was, when it comes to outfit planning, so like my sewing, pretty much, do I start with a distinct plan or do I just go with a vibe? I am a vibe maker. But when it comes to sewing, what I try to do is I try to make sure I have basics and workhorses in my wardrobe, and then I have a bunch of, like, you know, fun, silly pieces. So I try to make sure that I have, especially when it comes to bottoms, because bottoms are the thing that I struggle with the most. It's still relatively easy for me to go to a store and find a shirt. Like, I can find a button down, I can find t-shirts, I can find, you know, sweatshirts. It is still very difficult for me to go into a store and find ready-to-wear pants that fit right off the rack, that don't require tailoring. And if I'm gonna buy pants and then have to spend money on tailoring them, I might as well just make them myself. So the thing that I tend to spend the most time thinking about are bottoms, and I try to make sure that I have some basic pieces but also fun silhouettes, because I just enjoy having fun in my wardrobe. That's why I like the Arthur pants so much. Is why I'm planning on making the Co trousers by Daughter Judy. One of these days I will work my way up to jeans, but part of the reason why I have not made jeans yet is because of the amount of finishing that's required to make jeans look like jeans. I don't enjoy top stitching. I know there are a lot of people who just like top stitch fun designs on pockets for days. I don't enjoy top stitching. I find it really tedious and monotonous, and it's also really difficult for me because I'm a freewheeling chaos sewist, and top stitching requires, you know, some finesse and some care. If you want it to look good at the end of the day, it does require some finesse and some care. So jeans are on the horizon for me, but they're probably going to be like a much later on the horizon project. But for the most part, I don't do outfit planning. I make pieces that I know will work with the other pieces in my wardrobe, and then I just mix and match once it's already fully made. There have been a few times that I have made like a matching set, so that would probably be more outfit planning, making a matching set, so then obviously things are going to go together because they're from the same fabric. But for the most part, I just kind of make things because I have such a distinct color palette, things tend to match without me really trying very hard, because I wear the same like 4 colors over and over. And then I just try to make sure that I use a lot of the similar fabrics. So I use a lot of linen, a lot of cotton, a lot of corduroy, all things that are going to be the same fabric and the same texture. So it's really easy to build a quote-unquote capsule. I don't, believe it. I don't really subscribe to the capsule wardrobe, but when things tend to go together and match, it just becomes easier to build outfits. So I tend to go from a vibe. I tend to make things that I think are going to mix and match with whatever I already have. And I also do wardrobe inventory fairly often. I use the Airtable app to keep track of my fabric, to keep track of my pattern library, but I also use it to keep track of the things that I've made. So I don't always have to go into my closet to see what I've made. I can just pull up my phone and see all of my me-made projects, and then try to assess where the gaps are in my wardrobe and what I want to make next. And I hope that answered that question. So question 6 is a follow-up to question 5, and it's how do I find the things that inspire me? So how do I find sewing patterns or interesting fabrics or general things that spark joy? And honestly, the way I do all this stuff is through Instagram. I know that Instagram's not for everybody. I know that social media is not for everybody, and it can sometimes be a toxic soup, but it is literally how I find everything. I don't really enjoy newsletters. I find that like newsletters can feel a little bit too salesy and too gimmicky. So I don't really enjoy newsletters. And then there are just some companies who send them way too often. Like I don't need a weekly newsletter from you to remember that you exist. So I know that newsletters are a way to just be kept up with what people are making and what people are sharing, but I find them sometimes they're just too much. And so I routinely don't read them, even if I am subscribed to them. I find Instagram to just be the easiest way for me to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community, what designs are being made, what's being tested, and just get really excited for releases. So that's what I do. I follow a bunch of talented sewists that even if their stuff isn't necessarily my style, you can learn from people and be inspired by people, even if their aesthetic is not necessarily your own. So I follow all of my favorite pattern brands, obviously, and then I follow a bunch of sewists. And I save things, Instagram has that convenient save feature. I save things from save posts that I want to go back and look at the pattern, or even if I'm not interested in the pattern, but I'm interested in the fabric that they're wearing, or I'm interested in the thing that they styled. So I use Instagram. Instagram is how I find the things that spark joy. Every now and then I see something that is like so amazing that I literally drop everything and start cutting fabric. But I scroll in the mornings is typically where I do my percolating time. I am not a night owl. I'm not sure if you knew this about me. I'm not a night owl. I'm very much a morning person. And my brain, I think, is at its best in the morning. So in the morning when I'm, before I have to get up out of bed to get to work, I tend to scroll and do a little bit of percolating, and then I have a little maker's journal, like an actual notebook, where I write down the things that feel good, because it really helps me restrict my, oh my goodness, wow, it really helps me restrict my screen time if I have an analog system. And also I find that I think better when I have a pen and paper in my hand. So I have a little maker's journal where I transcribe the things from my phone and from Instagram to my little notebook, and that helps me keep track of the things that I plan on making, that I want to make, that I'm daydreaming about. And obviously I make more plans than I can ever actually do. There are not enough hours in the day, and this stuff takes time. So as much daydreaming as I do, there's not always the same number of projects to show for it, but I do think that there's something to be said for the time we spend daydreaming. I think our brains require creative stimulation and require that outlet. So even if I don't actually turn those creative daydreams into finished objects, I think there's value in spending the time just daydreaming. Okay, I just realized that I forgot to charge my camera battery, and I hope it'll let me get through this video. So we might have to start moving along. Okay, number 7. So how does your commitment to whimsy inspire you, and what are the overlaps between whimsy and creativity? I thought it was a great question because I've been talking a lot on Instagram. I'm not sure if I mentioned it here, but I've been talking a lot on Instagram about making room for whimsy in my life, especially as an adult. I feel like as adults we forget how to play. And I'm really trying to make sure I leave room for whimsy and play and joy. I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by this super splitty fiber not doing the things I want it to do, is I really want to make sure I leave room for whimsy and for play in my wardrobe. What that means for me right now, and that could mean a number of different things for people, because it can mean playing with silhouette, it can mean playing with color. What it means for me is dressing like I escaped from The Hobbit all the time. That's what whimsy and play looks like for me right now. It looks like dressing like a hobbit. It looks like dressing like the protagonist of a dark academia novel. It looks like wearing my Ren Faire clothes out and about. It looks like wearing things that are not necessarily Ren Faire clothes, but Ren Faire coded out and about. It looks like wearing big breezy silhouettes and long dresses and my leaf backpack. And it looks like being a jaunty little lad. That's what Whimsy looks like for me right now. So those are the things that I'm prioritizing in my personal making. Now I do need grown-up clothes. Like I do need trousers. And I need basic, basic pieces, because you can't be a jaunty little lad every day, or can you? But what it really looks like is just prioritizing a fantasy core and cottage core in my own wardrobe. It is very hard for me to find those things in my size. That's just the reality of the situation. But also, I am very much interested in the more androgynous part of cottage core. So less, I do love a good linen dress, but less like big linen dresses and more like waistcoats and oversized blazers and pantaloons. Like I'm not gonna be wearing breeches, but like pretty much that vibe, that's the thing that I'm really interested in. So those are going to be the things that are probably going to be hopping off of my machine, but I do want to make a bunch of like wool circle skirts. I did have some fabric ordered that was like a boiled wool blend, not like just wool, because I don't know how to sew with wool yet, so I'm not trying to buy super expensive fabric, but I did get like a pretty affordable boiled wool blend to make some fun circle skirts, so I can have some like heavy walking skirts like they wore in Edwardian England. I think that would be really fun. But that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, cottage core and fairy core and hobbit core, because I am a D&D player and a nerd in real life, and that is very much my aesthetic. So continuing that, someone wanted to talk about my Ren Faire outfit plans, because you got to start early if you're going to start making stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be so one of the things on my to make list that I've already started working on, but I have not made very much progress, so you have not heard or seen anything about it, is I've already started working on a pair of is it a pair? A set of stays. My goal is to make my own corsets for Ren Faire, so I can pick the fabric and I could just, make it fit me and do all that other stuff. So I did get some plastic boning and like an eyelet setter and like all the stuff, and I've just been slowly working on my first set of stays, which is really, the making itself is not hard. It's just the process of it, like tracing where you got to put the boning and then doing all the extra stitching and lining and the bias binding is going to fully send me. But if I figure out how to make this corset, I'm making all my corsets for Ren Faire next year. I'm just gonna make a bunch of corsets for regular life. I want to make some corsets for Ren Faire. I want to make some bodices without boning just to wear out and about. But I do want to make some corsets for Ren Faire, and I'm going to make a bunch of like breezy linen dresses that I could wear again out. So because I want to live that whimsical life, I want to make clothes that I could wear to Ren Faire, but also just wear out and about. And I'm not really interested in like the costuming aspect. So like no like really heavy brocades. Like I'm not trying to dress like I'm in the Queen's Court. My vibe has always just been an escaped fawn who just was, lost in the Feywild and found her way to the material plane and is out and about wandering with humans. I do plan on making a few more headdresses this year though. If you haven't seen my headdresses, there's pictures of them somewhere. There's actually a video of me wearing them. I do have 2 horned headdresses, and I think I'm going to make 2 more. So I'm going to pick the colors of my bodices and my outfits and then make my horned headdresses based on what colors are in those outfits. Now, how many horn dresses does a girl need, you're probably asking? Infinite number. Am I just gonna walk around with horns on my head? Hell yeah. Maybe I'll just go to the park tomorrow and I'll wear my horned headdress and terrorize all the little children. Actually, the children loved it. That's my favorite part of the Ren Faire, is when the kids just walk up to you and just stare at you like you're a wild fairy creature, because in their eyes, you are. So yes, my plan is to make some bodices, my plan is to make some dresses, and to make some pants. And then just be able to mix and match it into my regular wardrobe. And then the pieces that are going to be like super Ren Faire energy are going to be some headdresses. I would like to purchase a belt pouch from Leafling Bags, which is where my leaf backpack is from. I don't think I would ever be making my own accessories, like in terms of the things that I tie around my waist. I would much rather leave that stuff to the professionals, but some bodices, I could probably figure out how to do that. Okay, so someone asked how you pick your dream spindle and which of the spindles I'll be rehoming. So I can't tell you how to pick your dream spindle, because your dream spindle and your requirements are going to be very different from my dream spindle and my requirements. I need something that zooms, is what I've learned. I am too impatient and I don't have time to wait for the twist to build up. And so when I was learning, I was constantly drafting faster than the twist was building in my fiber supply. And so my singles kept breaking. I need something that zooms. It's why I'm a big fan of the Ninjas by Spanish Peacock. It's why I'm a big fan of the Woodland Handcraft spindles. They tend to zoom. I am probably going to be rehoming all of my Tibetans. Tibetans by design are going to be slower spindles. They spin slower. I mean, they might spin longer, but I don't mind flicking over and over if it means I'll build twists faster. So it's just like your personal preference. I'm also going to be rehoming all of my heavier spindles. I am keeping my Allenberry spindles because I love them, and for all that they're super heavy, they spin very fast. But I'm going to be rehoming my heavier spindles because I like to pack fiber onto my cups, and the heavier spindles just become too hard for me to spin. With my carpal tunnel and all the other issues I have with my left hand, I'm very cognizant about the repetitive motions and the pressures and the tensions I put on my hands. And so my heavier spindles are just too hard for me to use. But I know people who love a slow, heavy spindle. Everybody's on their own maker's journey, and the only way you can really figure out your dream spindle is to try a bunch of them. Now, I'm not saying do what I did and buy a bunch of spindles, but maybe if you could find a spinning friend who has a spindle that you can try. Maybe you have a spinning guild locally that you can try. What I think would be really fun, and I'm not offering to set this up, so no, but what I think could be fun is to have the sisterhood of the traveling pans, but have it be a sisterhood of, or not sisterhood, I'm just using that show, the title of the movie. It doesn't have to be a sisterhood, but having a spindle flock that travels from maker to maker so that people could try some spindles and try to figure out what they want before they go shopping. I wish that was something that was accessible to me, where I could have just gotten 5 spindles in the mail and I got to keep them for a month and mess around with them and spin fiber on them and figure out what I wanted from my own personal flock before I went shopping. I think that would have been an invaluable resource, because really I think the only way to know these things is to try them. And if you can't get to a fiber festival, or you don't have a guild, or you don't have any friends that spin locally, it's really hard to make those choices. And that is part of the reason I ended up with as many spindles as I did. I think when I'm home over the break, I will be going through my flock. I do plan on filming a spindle tour because people have said that they were interested in it. But I think the reason that I want to film a spindle tour is so I can go through my flock and figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm not. So yeah, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I think some of it depends on your personal spinning style. If you are a faster drafter, like me, I'm constantly being told that I draft pretty quickly. Maybe a slower spindle might not be your speed, but also maybe a slower spindle will help you slow down and be intentional about your making, and maybe that's what you want. So it's really hard to tell someone this is how you figure out your dream spindle, because so much of it is just trial and error, and it would just be really, really nice if there was a rotating set of spindles out there that you could just mess around with for a little bit, that would be cared for and appreciated by everybody who got it, so it doesn't get mangled in its travels, and everyone could just, figure out what they loved before they bought it. Would be nice. Okay, number 10. I don't even know what number we're on right now. Someone had a question about my favorite ways to manage color when it comes to dyed fiber. I don't have one. I change it based on what I feel like making, what I feel like doing, what I think would make the colors shine the best. And really, literally, it's just what I feel like making. I love spinning a chain plied yarn because I just enjoy the process of chain plying. I don't enjoy knitting with chain plied yarn because I don't enjoy knitting with self-striping yarn. I find that my favorite way to knit hand spun, when we're talking about color management, my favorite way to knit with hand spun is when the colors dance and marl and blend. I like that. And when you have a self-striping yarn, you're going to get very distinct stripes. Now I think a self-striping yarn could be really cool in socks, because people knit self-striping socks all the time, or maybe in a yoke. Maybe in a yoke. But the only time I spin a gradient yarn, the only time I ply, wow, should have had my coffee. The only time I chain ply a color, a dyed top braid is if it's a gradient yarn. It took me a really long time to get that out. That is when I chain ply, because I like to maintain the gradient that the dyer dyed. I think that's really fun. So like the color work in my my coffee house cardigan, I chain plied that yarn to maintain the rainbow gradient that the dyer created. I actually have a few chain plied gradient yarns just sitting on my shelf that I have not figured out what to do with, but that is probably the only time that I will chain ply color changing yarn. I do chain ply my singles that are like from fleece all the time, because sometimes I want a 3-ply yarn and I don't want to have to do the work of like splitting my fiber evenly into 3 bobbins and then making sure it all lines up, and I just spin it end to end and then chain ply it when it's done. I have no issues with chain plying. I've talked to a few people about whether the whether a chain plied yarn is less structurally sound than a 3-ply yarn, and there doesn't seem to be any consensus on whether a chain plied yarn is less structurally sound. So if you do want to chain ply your sock yarn, should be okay. I talked to several people about that, and I've yet to get an answer that's like, most people are like, no, you're fine, don't worry about it. So, you know, choose your own adventure. My favorite way to spin is a fractal. I just enjoy the way fractal yarns look when they're knit up, but I know they're not for everybody. Sometimes people just prefer to do like a traditional 2-ply or a 3-ply, so you get less barber poling. It just depends on what your personal aesthetic is. I enjoy barber poling in my yarn. I enjoy all the places. This fiber is so slubby. I enjoy all the places that colors mix and match, and I enjoy the way that looks in my knit fabric. But I guess it just depends on what you like to do with color and what your personal aesthetic is. But I will probably spin a fractal over a traditional 2-ply or a traditional 3-ply any day, because I just enjoy the way the color stands. So that is my favorite way to color manage. And if you're curious about fractal spinning, I've already covered it, so we're not going to do it again. But also, you know, Google or YouTube fractal spinning. There are a bunch of people who are explaining it out there. I covered it last year, and it is a very involved explanation that I just don't want to do right now. But there are a million resources out there for looking up fractal spinning if you're curious and you haven't heard that term before. And I guess the final question is, have my favorite sheet breeds for working from raw changed in the last year? Like, have I learned anything that have changed the things that I think are my favorite? Have I discovered something new? And I will say, Corriedale, still at the top of my list. CVM, still at the top of my list. Shetland, still at the top of my list. Romney, still at... The fun part is I don't remember like what I put on the... Like, I would have to go back and watch my top 5 sheep breeds to tell you in exactly if I had put them in any order, but I know for sure that the 4 things on that list, I don't remember what the 5th one was, but I know for sure that the 4 things, 4 of the 5 on that list were CVM, Corriedale, Romney, and Shetland, and those are exactly the same. I really wish I remember what number 5 was. Those things are the same. In a year of fleece processing adventures, they are still the same. I have, I think I'm adding Perrindale to my list of things that really bring me joy, but I will always gravitate towards the mean wools. That's not correct. I will always gravitate towards the medium wools and the long wools over the fine. I think, now listen, a fine wool yarn is an experience, and technically CVM is a fine wool. I just find that the medium wools are like really giving and really generous and really fun to work with. And I think that the fine wools can sometimes take a little bit too much finesse and too much care. And for the type of making that I do, which is not always like super intentional and super slow and super thoughtful, sometimes the medium wools with their, you know, their robust ability to take a beating is what I prefer. But yeah, no, I think I really wish I remember what the 5th breed on my list was. But 4 out of the 5 of those things are definitely still the same and will probably be the same forever. I love the primitive breeds. I wonder if it was Jacob. It might have been Jacob. I love the primitive breeds. I love the ways that like it inspires our hands and our heart to remember where our ancestors were and what they were doing. It's part of the reason why I enjoy spinning, is because spinning is such a primitive craft. But yeah, no, I think things are the same, and I think they're going to continue to be the same. Yeah. my camera's yelling at me. So we're gonna call it there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We are on day 7 of this winter box, which means there are just 5 days left. I might actually try to get some plying in this weekend. So maybe by the next time I see you, I'll have a few plied mini skeins from what I've been spinning so far. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope your season of Starlight is going well, and I will see you real soon. See you real soon.